Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. All right, we got a lot to cover. We're counting down to Iowa. Now, Nikki Haley has just been disaster after disaster. Her campaign is, when it comes to being the worst campaign of this election season, is second only to Ron DeSantis, who had the worst campaign of all. You know, Ron DeSantis started with the Twitter Spaces. That was a disaster. Remember, technically it didn't work, you know, and the high heels and everything else. In fact, I just saw a video on YouTube just a little while ago on YouTube Shorts with Patrick Bet-David. Now, Patrick Bet-David had Ron DeSantis in his studio a couple months ago, and he asked Ron DeSantis how tall he is. Ron DeSantis said 5'11", which everyone knows is BS. And Patrick Bet-David says that he lied. That is not true, that he is walking on eggshells and that he is, I mean, that was amazing. Patrick Bet-David was pretty close to DeSantis. He went to was it a Marlins game or a Dolphins game with him? Yeah. Either went to a Marlins game or a Dolphins game with DeSantis, Patrick Bet-David. He had him in the studio at his office, and he's saying that he's a liar. So the DeSantis campaign, Patrick Bet-David was even talking about the funny high heel shoes, boots, and all that, and he got to see them in person. So the DeSantis campaign could very well be the most disastrous campaign in modern history. Nikki Haley's number 2. And, you know, these politicians, when they go down in embarrassing humiliation in campaigns, what will usually happen is they'll have one trip up, and then that'll be following them. Ron DeSantis was the high heel shoes. And remember, I told you guys over a year ago, I told you guys over a year ago that Ron DeSantis' downfall was going to be his height. And you disagreed with me, Kathy. Everyone has been making fun of me for months. People have been telling me I'm petty. I don't know, you tell me. And then look, it was his height that did him in. Nikki Haley, she's had a lot of embarrassing moments. This not knowing the cause of the Civil War is going to follow her for the rest of her life, and it's been following her on this campaign. Now,
and the more she tries to dig herself out of that hole, the worse it gets.
Yeah, you know, an audio clip came out yesterday of Nikki Haley. This was from a few years ago, but she was saying that the illegal immigrants, don't call them illegal immigrants, they're good people, blah, blah, blah. And what that is, you know, her parents were immigrants, which is fine, nothing wrong with being a legal immigrant. But she was raised in a non-American household, and the illegal immigrants, she doesn't view them like an American would view them. She views them as, you know, an Indian American would, you know, someone who's an immigrant would view them. So anyway, there was a CNN town hall in Iowa that on Thursday with DeSantis and Nikki Haley. They both had their turns. And this clip, I didn't play this on the radio today because it's a little long. And I had some other stuff I wanted to focus in on more with DeSantis on the radio. But Nikki Haley, she tried to deflect on her not knowing the cause of the Civil War. Now, I'm not going to play the Civil War clip. We've played that a lot. Everyone's played it. She was asked at a town hall, I don't know, but a week or two ago. It was either last week or the week before, about the slavery and the Civil War or the cause of the Civil War. She did not know the cause of the Civil War. She tried to bluff her way through it. She looks stupid, and because she is stupid, she gave a AOC Kamala Harris-like answer. So every interview she does, the Civil War thing comes up, and she makes it worse. So on See It In last night, she started talking about how she has black friends. Well, she had. She said she had black friends, which implies
growing up.
Yeah, which she had black friends, which means like she doesn't have any now. She had black friends.
I think she just meant when she was growing up, she had black friends.
Whatever.
We all did, didn't we? I mean, we didn't go to segregated schools.
No, we have black friends. It you know, unless you don't have.
No, but yeah. I am friends. I had a very good friend in high school. Yeah. Very good friend of mine that was black that I'm still friends with. So, but I had other black, but I wouldn't say it like that. That just
the way you say it. If you have black friends today is I've always had black friends going back to the time when I was in school. I had black friends. Right. You know,
but when you say that, that really offends a lot of black people.
Well, yeah, it should. It is. It's stupid what she said. Now, keep in mind, I am the only person who's reported on Nikki Haley's sex scandal. And, I mean, it just really burns me that
That's not going anywhere.
This is the
thing. People are just desensitized to sex scandals.
Yeah, for the last 2 or 3 days, all I've been hearing about is the Epstein stuff. That's not even detailed. It's just basically a list of names and a little bit more. And
well, that's a little different because you're dealing with pedophilia.
Yeah, but some of that stuff's going back like 20 years. This is stuff that's going on now with somebody that's on the campaign that's going to be on ballots this month.
Why do you think, though, then why do you think people don't care about that?
It's not that they don't care. The people that are in the media, they like her. They don't like Trump. There's a lot of people
but they're letting this bury her.
Mm-mm. The sex scandal of Nikki Haley, which is incredibly graphic. You can go on my YouTube channel and watch the live streams I did on that. The guy she had an extramarital affair with gave a sworn deposition, and it's very, very detailed. I went through the whole thing. So you guys can go back to that and watch that and get all the details. So I don't want to go through that now. But there's a lot of people that you think are okay so far as conservative influencers, but they're not. They're like fake. They're fake MAGA. They're establishment people because they're all talking about Epstein this week, old news, okay, while we've got this scandal going on and we're just a little more than a week away from the Iowa caucus. Like Megyn Kelly, for example. These are people that have not talked about the Nikki Haley sex scandal. In fact, CNN never meant a Republican sex scandal that they didn't love, but they none of them have mentioned the Nikki Haley sex scandal.
I don't agree with you on this because why would they let this slavery story do her in if they were trying to protect her?
The slavery story is minor compared to her sex scandal. But let me get to what she did last night.
I disagree with you.
Oh yeah,
but anyway.
Oh yeah. She'd be done. Between the two of them, she'd be done. If most people, knew,
I really don't care about her sex life either. To be honest with you,
Kathy,
I really don't.
She was having sex in parking lots, in her family car, in her government office, okay, with a man she wasn't married to while her husband was at home waiting for her, okay?
But in politics, that's very, now it's just...
No.
It's very common.
It means
I think that's when people are just desensitized. No. I am too.
What politician, what elected official do you know of that have had sex in their family cars in parking lots behind restaurants?
I don't know. I just don't care.
Or other than Bill Clinton with Lewinsky,
you said
had
you didn't
sex
care
in their government office.
You said you didn't care about the Epstein stuff. So how come when I say I don't care about this, you're giving me a hard time?
It's not that no.
I just don't care.
It's not that I don't care about the Epstein stuff. It's just it's not the priority right now. The priority is Trump not just winning these primaries, but overwhelming victories, okay? Overwhelming victories and all of them.
I agree with you.
So that's important. So anyway, let's get to this. So this is Nikki Haley. And
however you slice it, she's just a disaster. You know what I mean? It's just one thing after another.
In fact, Nikki Haley is, other than Bill Clinton, I don't know of another elected official that had sex in their government office with someone they weren't married to, okay, other than Nikki Haley. And she is the first female that I know of that's had a sex scandal like this that's a politician.
But is it really a scandal if nobody's making it a scandal, just you?
They're covering it up. They're not reporting it, which is another scandal. But anyway, let's get to this. So this is Nikki Haley talking about her black friends on CNN. Yes. We'll go through this because it's a very long, call it a clip is a little misleading because it's a long piece, but I want to go through the whole thing because she just makes it worse as it goes on.
Does.
I was just going to take out the little soundbite when she said she had black friends. And
you don't ever want to say that because that is definitely something that upsets the black community. When you say, I know you don't even like to say too often that we have a black daughter because it comes across sometimes wrong, you're using that as an excuse, what I mean, and a lot of people take it that way. So you don't really mention it because to me it's not an issue. I don't sit there and say, oh, I got my black daughter. That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
I don't say my adopted daughter.
Never.
She's my daughter. That's it, pure and simple. I don't make a thing about it. But I know once in a while on the radio you will say it because it's pertinent to the conversation. Yeah. So maybe she felt that it was pertinent to that, but that doesn't. But the problem is, it comes across as if she's using the black community as an excuse for her stupidity.
Yeah,
and that's how they're going to take it.
So I was just going to take out that one clip, and then as I listened to this, she just digs the hole so deep from beginning to end. I thought we would enjoy the whole self-destruction of Nikki Haley.
It'll be fun.
So this was the CNN town hall in Iowa on Thursday. Nikki Haley.
So I want to ask you about something that's been a challenge for your campaign over the past week. And this, of course, is referring back to New Hampshire, where you were asked to explain the cause of the Civil War. You obviously did not mention slavery. And afterwards, you came up, you said that was a mistake. In fact, you said it should have been the first thing that you said. So you did come out and say that. Chris Christie, though, came out and said that you gave that answer not because you're, in his words, dumb or racist, but because you're, quote, unwilling to offend anyone by telling truth. What do you say to that? No one's ever said that I am unwilling to offend. I offend plenty of people because
I just said it.
You know, one of the he
just said it.
He just said it. So that whole statement makes no sense. No one's ever said I'm unafraid to offend people. Yeah,
he just said it.
They just quoted Chris Christie saying it. Isn't she stupid?
Yes, she really is.
She's a stupid person.
She is.
And I
disagree with him. She's just dumb.
Yeah, the other thing about Nikki Haley that I've only noticed in the last week, because I've never really paid much attention to Nikki Haley until lately. She's in the news all the time. Does she not have one of the most annoying voices?
Yeah.
Just annoying. Anyway, back to
There's a lot of things wrong with her.
Yeah, like everything.
What do you say to that? No one's ever said that I am unwilling to offend. I offend.
Except Chris Christie in the quote that the CNN anchor just quoted to you, Nikki Haley.
Just said it.
Oh, my goodness.
Of people because I call people out when they do something wrong. What I will tell you is Chris Christie is from New Jersey. I should have said slavery right off the bat. But if you grow up in South Carolina, literally in second and third grade, you learn about slavery. You grow up and you have,
Okay. Now, everyone in the United States, they even do it more now than when we were kids. Everyone in school, not just South Carolina, learn about slavery in the United States and the Civil War.
Third grade, you learn about slavery. You grow up and you have, I had black friends growing up. It is a very talked about thing. We have a big history in South Carolina when it comes to, slavery, when it comes to all the things that happened with the Civil War, all of that. I was thinking past slavery and talking about the lesson that we would learn going forward.
She is so done.
Now,
she is so done with that.
There's two possibilities with her with the slavery and the one possibility is she's stupid and did not know.
No, I think that's what it is.
But the other one is the third primary, it's Iowa, New Hampshire, then South Carolina, where she was twice elected governor, right? South Carolina was not just a Confederate state. It was like the Confederate state. It was like the most Confederate of the Confederate state.
Yeah, that's where Rhett Butler was from.
Yeah, and she stereotypes conservatives as racist. And what Chris Christie says is also possible, that she doesn't, because she has this negative stereotype of conservative voters in South Carolina, she thinks they're racist to want to bring slavery back, and she didn't want to offend them. Well, that's a possibility.
I had said that before on a previous
one of the two
podcast that maybe because she's counting on these Democrats to get her into the primary, but that's not going to happen now.
It's about Republicans.
But remember, she was counting on Democrats to get to vote her in South Carolina or in some of these states.
Yeah,
that shot is over now for her.
All right, back to it.
Slavery and talking about the lesson that we would learn going forward. I shouldn't have done that. I should have said slavery, but in my mind, that's a given that everybody associates the Civil War with slavery. So when you talk about slavery being a constant point of discussion and being a point in where you go, my children growing up in New York, they learn about slavery in first grade too.
Exactly.
Can you share what the discussions about slavery were like? In your household, you've talked about experiencing.
Okay. What a dumb question. People in their household don't sit around and talk about slavery. Like, did your parent, when your parent, this liberal reporter, maybe liberal parents do, but the way this reporter on CNN asks it is that there was a point in life when parents sit down and talk to their children about slavery.
I'm sure black parents do.
Maybe.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, but she's not black.
Part of their history.
I never talked about slavery to my parents.
Yeah.
Talked about, allowance and lunch money and chores.
But I'm sure black families do.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm sure they do.
Well, the reporter on CNN, she's not
But we
black.
talked to Emily about it when she was learning about it and stuff. And I remember a few times saying, would you like to go to the library and get some books?
A lot of that has to be.
And she just said no.
A lot of that has to do with.
But I tried to be open-minded.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that, like what I do for a living, and we do this podcast from home, and our daughter's been here through the whole time, and so she hears these discussions.
But I got to say, Brian, my parents never talked to me about anything I learned in school.
No.
Okay, back then, you know, when they talked to me about school, every 9 weeks when I got my report card, that was it.
Yeah.
And they knew I got my report card because I had 3 siblings.
Yeah.
So, you know, I couldn't hide it, but I had good grades. But other than that, my parents were not involved in my school at all.
Nobody does.
They never looked at my books.
They
never said, "What are you learning?"
In Nikki Haley's family, they did talk about it. Listen.
Oh, please.
Should have said slavery, but in my mind, that's a given that everybody associates the Civil War with slavery. So when you talk about slavery being a constant point of discussion and being a point in where you go, my children growing up in New York, you know, they learn about slavery in first grade too. Can you share what the discussions about slavery were like?
I'm going to pull this out
in your household? You've talked about experiencing humiliating discrimination when you were a little girl, things you remember. What were the discussions about slavery like for you? I mean, I think that different than anyone else in South Carolina. I mean, you know, we had the time that I came and grew up, we were the only Indian family in a small rural.
Who cares?
She can't even make anything up.
The only Indian family?
She's clearly, this is what happens when you lie. Okay? You lie to try to get out of something.
Yeah.
And that leads to having to tell more lies.
Yeah.
And you go down that rabbit hole of lying. So now she's scrambling.
And this is also deflection.
Because there is no way in hell her parents from India had in-depth discussions with her about slavery in America. I can promise you that.
No.
Especially since she's our age. Our parents that were baby boomers were not involved in our lives like parents of today. She's our age. I could tell you, growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was not a thing for parents to be helicopter parents. They weren't. They weren't at all. I mean, we were latchkey kids.
And her parents being Indian, they probably talked to her like about the Great Mutiny, stuff like that. Anyway,
they probably talked to her about Gandhi and the British.
Exactly.
South Carolina. I mean, you know, we had the time that I came and grew up, we were the only Indian family in a small rural southern town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, why we were there.
So now she's calling black people racist. That she wasn't dark enough she wasn't black enough to be black.
I don't know how this answers the question. She just can't answer anything right. She's really dumb.
Small rural southern town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. So we dealt with our own challenges. And I remember when I would get teased on the playground and I would come home, my mom would always say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. And it's amazing how that lesson on the playground played throughout my life. Because whether it was in the corporate world or as governor or as ambassador, when you're first faced with a challenge, if you talk about what you have in common, people let their guard down, and then you can get to a solution. So when you talk about slavery, it was not just slavery that was talked about. It was more about racism that was talked about. It was more about, you know, we had friends, we had black friends, we had white friends, but it was always a topic of conversation, even among our friends. And in the South, we're very comfortable talking about it because we know that's what it is. But the goal was always to make today better than yesterday. And even though that there was, you know, a lot of hardened thoughts on that there. I mean, we went through.
So all these,
I think they're as comfortable about talking about slavery in the South as they are talking about the Nazis in Germany.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no way in hell people in the South talk about this stuff openly.
I know she was the governor of South Carolina, but she's not. I remember when I first moved to Florida to go to, you know, I've been coming here since the 70s at the summers to visit my grandparents and my dad and stuff. But I moved to Florida in 1982 in 5th grade. And being from Ohio.
6th grade.
For you, you're older than me.
No, 82. I was in 7th grade. You were in 6th grade.
Maybe part of it
you were 11.
Maybe it was 81 I came down then because I started 5th grade in Florida. So it was 81 or 82.
Okay, then 81.
Okay. And when I remember, because I was from Ohio, the discussions on slavery weren't about moving forward and making today better than yesterday. You know, they used to call me a Yankee. The kids would call me a Yankee.
That's right.
You know, and because back in those days in the South, during the time,
she's completely lying.
In the 70s and 80s, okay, in the Deep South, which in Florida we're in the Deep South.
Absolutely.
Okay? Even though South Carolina is more north of us, it's even more Deep South than Florida. But now this has changed in Florida in the last 20, 25 years. But prior to about 20, 25 years ago, there were Confederate flags everywhere
down here.
On people's cars.
Yep. Everywhere.
In stores.
Oh, I remember kids at school, like all the, we called them the rednecks. They were all in shop, and they all wore baseball hats. And they all had Confederate flags on their cars.
See, that's why
that was a thing.
That's why when DeSantis always wore boots with his suits, a lot of Florida good old boys still wear cowboy boots with their suits. I didn't know he was in drag with the high heels.
No, yeah,
and remember, Bill Maher said Florida cowboy boots. I thought everyone wore flip flops.
No.
Maybe in Miami Beach.
That's South Florida.
Yeah, but this. Back in the time when Nikki Haley was in school, which is when Kathy and I were in school, because we're the same age.
It was not like woke.
It would and it was very much. You knew you were in the Confederacy. You knew you were in the Confederacy. It was
very divided. There were no woke conversations.
No,
I didn't discuss slavery with my friends that were black. We talked about boys and shopping and going to the mall. We didn't have these heavy discussions. Maybe young people do today, but she's completely lying here.
Well, I told you at the school,
telling that her family had open and in-depth discussions with her white and black friends.
I've told you many times on this program.
Bullshit.
When I went to sixth grade, the school I went to for sixth grade used to be the black high school. And everybody called it the colored. Oh, you go to the colored high school.
That's right.
They used to tell that to me. Even the teachers would say that this is the colored high school.
And growing up in South Carolina, I'm sure it was even more divided that time.
Oh, yeah, than Florida.
In the 70s and 80s. There's no way. It was nothing like today. Nothing like today. The kids were completely different. It wasn't
all this woke discussion.
You're talking the 70s is only like 10 years after segregation ended. Okay.
Actually, it was still going on in some parts of the country.
It was.
That's why there was busing.
Things were still very.
That's why they still had busing.
That's right. There was busing, and you were bussed for a time, and that's why all that went on, because they were trying to integrate all the schools because they were very segregated. So anything, and she's like our age, she's our generation. So anything she talks about like that is complete BS. She is pulling it out of her butt. She is lying through her teeth, and you can tell she's just like. Anytime she panics, she pulls the Indian card. That's it. Like Hillary Clinton with the woman card.
Yeah.
Anytime Nikki Haley panics, she goes back to that victim story. We were this. We were the only Indian. Big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, is that special?
Yeah.
I mean, how were the Italians and the Irish treated when they first got here in the early 20th century? The Irish were treated horribly, and the Italians too.
And I find it, it's
not unique to the Indians.
The more she talks about it, the less Southern she sounds. Because people that aren't in the South or weren't in the South during those times just don't remember what it was like. You guys have
they don't know.
They finally have you don't see.
Nobody had open, honest discussions about this back. I can promise you that.
No. I mean, I remember even here in South Florida, you guys, I've talked about this many times over the years. My first job was at Publix, the big grocery store chain here. And when black families would come in, the white managers would follow black families to the grocery store to make sure they didn't steal. They would follow them around, peeping around the corners, because those guys were probably in their 40s or 50s in the 80s. So they grew up during segregation.
Exactly.
And I was like, what are you doing? And they said, well, we got to follow them around. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, because you were from Ohio. From the north.
I'm a Yankee. And,
that's right.
And I imagine it was just as bad, if not worse, in South Carolina. And that's just it's not that way anymore. And you don't see Confederate flags too often anymore like you used to.
Which is good, of course, which is good.
There's been a lot of migration to Florida that's kind of faded away.
We were watching Godzilla the other night, the original Japanese movie, and that was made right after
54.
9 years after Pearl Harbor.
No. After the end of the war.
After the end of the war, a few years after the end of the war. And there was still a lot of anti-Japanese stuff. I remember even as a kid, people saying Japs and this and that, and my grandma used words like Jap and colored and all that. And she was born in 1908. And this is just the way people were. But we were watching Godzilla, and you were talking about how it's amazing how that movie was so popular because it was a movie about the nuclear bomb.
Well, what I realized is,
there was so much anti-Japanese sentiment. But my point is,
it was a Japanese movie.
The point is, time goes by.
And people
evolve and change. I mean, things are very different in Germany now. Things are very different in Japan now than they were. Back in the 50s and 60s, People wouldn't associate with Japanese people. I mean, they put them in internment camps. The thing with now it's totally different.
The thing with Nikki Haley, this is a bold statement because there's so many jerk politicians over the years that have run.
She's awful.
She is one of the most fake politicians I've ever seen. I would put her up there with John Kerry so far as fakeness. Nothing about her is real.
I think her and DeSantis are pretty equal. Did you see where he gave Caitlin Collins a football jersey or a basketball jersey?
Yeah, he gave her a gift.
Yeah, I mean, he's just as bad. The two of them are two of a kind.
He looked like an idiot when he gave Caitlin Collins
that gift. I've never, ever seen somebody give a reporter... What has he got, a thing for her? I mean, his wife, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, if you did that to a woman on TV and gave her a present, I'd be really pissed off.
Caitlin Collins is the one that Trump humiliated when he did the CNN town hall a while back that got the head of CNN fired.
I mean, I don't know what he was doing. It was in Iowa.
Those are his friends on CNN, DeSantis.
Well, but it was an Iowa team, so he's really kissing Iowa's ass.
He should have like a Florida State jersey he gave her.
Exactly.
Not
it was an Iowa team.
Really? It was?
Yes.
It wasn't Florida State?
No.
Unbelievable. Not even University of Miami or something, or Florida?
Exactly.
University of Florida?
Iowa team.
That's crazy.
I mean, that is
the governor
pandering
of
101.
Yeah. Now, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
Are you a freedom lover, a family person, a foodie, or just someone who enjoys a good story and a good time? Then add Coffee Table Chronicles to your podcast playlist. Hosted by husband and wife team Keith and Lindsay, they discuss the latest in politics, movies, history. No topic is off limits. They give their personal opinions on everything, and opposing opinions are welcome too. Coffee Table Chronicles is your go-to podcast for engaging, spirited discussions, the holidays, animals, survival tips, and the everyday joys and challenges of life. It's all there. This is a conversation and community you want to be a part of. Coffee Table Chronicles is on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Start listening right now. Coffee Table Chronicles with host Keith and Lindsay. Share the podcast on all your social media so your friends can listen too. Add Coffee Table Chronicles with Keith and Lindsay to your podcast playlist right now. How would you like fresh, roasted, delicious coffee each and every morning? With Iron Sight Coffee Brewing Company, you'll experience coffee from the roaster to your cup in just 72 hours. Located in the heart of Salt Lake City, Utah, Iron Sight Coffee is your gateway to premium coffee. They pride themselves on delivering a blend that tantalizes your taste buds without breaking the bank. Their top-tier quality ensures that every cup of their crafted coffee elevates your experience. It's exceptional coffee without compromise. With Iron Sight Coffee, you'll explore coffee from around the world. Arabian, African, Central and South American, flavored beans, gourmet, and more. They even have decaf. At Iron Sight Coffee, they prioritize quality, sourcing beans only from reputable regions, ensuring high standards in roasting and packaging for a premium coffee experience. From single origin beans to unique blends, they cater to every taste, perfect for morning, after dinner, or any time in between. Subscribe to their subscription service and save 10%, plus free shipping on orders over $99. Visit them online at ironsightbc.com. Iron Sight Coffee. Elevate your coffee experience. ironsightbc.com. Do you or someone you know or love have cancer? How would you like to cut through the complex medical jargon and finally understand cancer? The new book, Cancer Simply Explained, demystifies cancer. This must-read and groundbreaking book breaks down the science of cancer into understandable terms, using relatable illustrations and clear language. From cell biology to cancer causes, diagnosis, and treatment, Cancer Simply Explained offers practical insights and real-world analogies. Empower yourself with knowledge on prevention and fighting strategies. Learn about the importance of nutrition and physical activity in optimizing your body's defenses against cancer. Cancer is a daunting challenge, but with Cancer Simply Explained, you'll be armed with the latest scientific knowledge and practical tips. Understand risk factors, screening methods, treatment options, and how to cope physically and emotionally. Cancer Simply Explained is an invaluable resource for patients, survivors, caregivers, or anyone seeking to comprehend this complex topic. It's your guide to a healthier, more informed life. Don't let cancer intimidate you. Order your copy right now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and Kindle Unlimited, and turn fear into understanding, confusion into clarity. Cancer Simply Explained, from authors Dr. Visor Vela, Dr. Lawrence Favey, and Dr. Gunther Spahn. Available on Amazon. Cancer Simply Explained, the key to unlocking the secrets of cancer and embracing hope. Order your copy right now.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy.
I just want to bring up one thing that I'm very sad that David Soul died.
Oh, yeah.
As a kid, I loved Starsky and Hutch, and I had a huge crush on David Soul, and the other guy was too. You know, do you remember Paul Michael Glaser? Remember his wife and daughter died from AIDS.
That's right.
Do you remember that? That was awful.
That's right.
From a blood transfusion, I think, or I think his daughter was born with it. That was horrible. But I loved David Soul, and I loved his song. And I remember I used to listen to it all the time, like in 78.
What's the name of his song?
Don't Give Up on Us,
Don't Give
Baby.
Up on Us, Baby. That's a great song.
And then I was watching the news as a kid. And this story came out about him beating his wife. It broke my heart. I mean, I was so devastated when I heard that.
I think she was pregnant when he did it,
but he's very talented.
And I remember seeing the National Enquirer. It had David Soul and his wife on the cover, and she had like a black eye.
I think he wrote that song to her, which is a great song. But obviously, there's no excuse for hitting your wife, especially if she was pregnant. And obviously, she left him. But I remember when I heard that on the news, and I was so sad because I loved
What's the name of the song again?
Don't Give Up on Us,
Don't Give
Baby.
Up on Us, Baby. Great song. That song by David Soul, Don't Give Up on Us, Baby, is one of my 5 favorite songs.
Great song.
I love that song. In fact, when I heard David Soul died today, I listened to that song like 4 or 5 times, and I learned something really weird about him. Before he started acting, he was singing on television and stuff, wearing a mask.
Really?
Yeah. And then he took the mask off and tried to have it with the mask off a singing career, and he bombed. Then he got into acting.
Why was he wearing a mask? He's not ugly.
I have no idea. It was some weird thing.
He's done a lot of theater over the years.
Yeah, I love David Soul, and he has a cool name.
We saw him on an episode of Streets of San Francisco, and he was really good.
Yeah, he's cool. And he was also in...
great name.
David Soul was also in one of the Dirty Harry movies, Magnum Force.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
He was very good in that.
He's gone. But I was very sad when I don't know if he...
81?
80 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm assuming he resolved his violent issues because he remarried and his wife seemed to be happy.
Well, I don't know.
But hopefully. But
I don't know. I don't know how long he was that way. I don't know if it was a one-time incident. I don't know.
There was alcohol.
I've always heard that with him, and obviously his hit song was
maybe
an apology to his
act.
wife.
Yeah, cleaned up his act, and maybe it was a moment that he was like, "Wow, I that's really bad."
He did a movie. I love David Soul.
He was in Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot. I love Salem's Lot. He was also he did this movie with Rock Hudson, and it was in the 80s. It was a miniseries called World War III. And he was an Army colonel stationed in Alaska.
He was a great actor.
And the Russians invaded Alaska to cut the Alaskan pipeline. And Rock Hudson was the president.
Oh,
and
I'll have to see that.
Kathy Lee Crosby was in that, too.
I think the story with his wife is what ruined his career.
I'm going to see if I can find that movie on YouTube and watch it.
And then Paul Michael Glaser became like a big director.
Yeah, he was connected to all kinds. Well, anyway, I love David Soul.
Yeah, so just wanted to mention that. He's an actor from our childhood, and they're all dropping like flies
all the people we've grown up with are dying.
My dad, every time I talk to him, it's another friend of his dropped dead. He's
my goodness.
Like, he's 86, my father. He said, at this age, you never know.
That's right.
He said it's pretty depressing.
That's right. No doubt about it. I saw this story today. I wanted to share this. Listen to this. A Jewish family is speaking out after their teen daughter faced anti-Semitic harassment for wearing an Israeli Defense Forces jacket to a mall in New Jersey. The incident was caught on video. Palestinian supporters are seen shouting expletive-laced messages while accusing her of supporting genocide. And, she's got the idea of...
But what they're doing is okay, obviously.
When Obama was president in his first term, he said he wanted to fundamentally change this country. And what we've seen, I know like Tucker Carlson and some others don't want to, they keep comparing what's going on in Israel to Ukraine. You know, they say neocons don't want us involved in Ukraine, but they want us involved in Israel. Israel, we're never going to be involved in ground operations with Israel. We give them military aid and things like this, but we don't give them troops. And it's a real conflict as opposed to this fake thing they started in Ukraine, which is a money scam. It's not the same thing. And I know a lot of people are equating the two. They're not the same at all. And what that October 7th attack, though, showed in this country is how right President Trump was with that Muslim ban when he brought it in.
Yep.
Because Obama brought in more Muslims than – look at the squad. He brought in more Muslims than anyone ever realized. They have infiltrated and taken over huge parts of our country.
Really been working on.
Yeah, and this is all Obama and Barack Hussein Obama. And whether or not you think he's Muslim, his father was. Okay, his father was Muslim.
No, I think he is.
And his stepfather, Lolo Soetoro, was Muslim.
Yeah.
So his mother was twice married, both to Muslim men.
She probably was a convert too.
I mean, what are the odds of that?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, his mother took him to live in Indonesia, which has the largest Muslim population in the world.
No, I think it's obvious.
And he's obviously got connections that way, and he has made changes that are really, like he said, fundamental changes to our society. And when there's
I think that has been his goal. I think he's behind this whole border thing.
Oh yeah.
I think he
absolutely
him and Susan Rice have an agenda, and Biden's totally checked out and letting him do whatever the hell he wants as long as he can go hang out on the beach in Delaware every weekend. He doesn't care. Biden has a whole other agenda. It has nothing to do with running the country. It has everything to do with making money.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the only reason he's there. So Barack Obama is definitely behind this border crisis.
Oh yeah,
and the replacement theory, all that's happening.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And you know, it really shows. It's like a sleeping giant. I mean, you know, if we had a crystal ball on September 12th after the attacks on America to see these protests that are going on in this country by Muslims today, people would have been flipped out.
Well, you know, the last thing the politicians want is people united. And I think after September 11th, it really frightened them. Because other than 1976 with the bicentennial, and I remember that, I was 6 years old, and I remember there was so much like patriotism with Bruce Jenner with the decathlon, and he was on Wheaties, and I remember that 4th of July because my birthday is 2 days before, and that was a big deal, that 4th of July. And I remember that distinctly as a little girl. And other than that, in 9/11, you really have not seen such patriotism, maybe on VE Day or whatever they call it after World War II. Sometimes you have those moments, but the politicians don't like that. They don't want us to come together. And because once we do that collectively, we realize what jerks they are, and they have to divide and conquer. That's right. Their strategy. That's the only way they maintain power is by dividing us, because united we're too strong for them. And that's what they do. I mean, that's all they do is divide people.
That's true. That's true. Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. And those of you that are Patreon supporters, make sure you take advantage of going to the Patreon page and checking out all the exclusive content we post there, including the commercial-free editions of all of our podcast episodes. But we also put a lot of things up there, personal things that no one else gets to see but you guys, and other content as well. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Alice, Richard, Maria in Texas, David, Heather, ActicFox, K-Mac, LeeZep, Shawna, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Mike P, Carlos, Paulette, and John. These are our top Patreon supporters. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of each episode, both on the podcast platforms and on YouTube. And the direct website address is patreon.com/ Real Brian Craig Show. Patreon.com Real Brian Craig Show. Okay, so Biden's going to start doing things that Trump would do because he's afraid of losing. Okay, I went and got gas the other day. It was the lowest I paid in gas in a couple years. It was about $3 a gallon. So he's going to try to lower, but still, it's about twice what it was when Trump left office. It was a little over $3 a gallon. And our daughter in California, she called us yesterday. She was getting gas at Costco in California. She was paying like $4.
Yeah, a couple months ago it was $6.
Yeah, this was yesterday. She was paying just about $4
she was excited.
A gallon. So she was all excited. So I'm not happy with $3 or $4 a gallon gas. It was $1.57 when Trump left office here at the gas station that I paid the $3 and something for the other day, same gas station. But Biden's going to start doing things to try to win re-election. So he's going to try to bring gas prices down.
Yep.
He's talking about caving to pressure and securing the border now, okay, after he's brought millions of illegals in, of course. Trump said this week that the Fed may reduce interest rates to help
this
Biden.
This is what liberals do. Okay, they let the country go to hell, and then in the final stretch, that last year when it's time to vote, then they all of a sudden fix everything.
Yeah,
and then as soon as you elect them, it goes back to another.
Yeah, they put it back. Yeah,
another mess.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't fall for it, guys.
Yeah, don't fall for it. In fact, that Biden's doing all this shows that everything that he's done on purpose. Gas prices, border, interest rates, that all this has happened by design. And the reason this is happening is the Democrats believe that working people, that the middle class are stopping them from having complete power. So they're trying to wipe out the middle class. They want to have two classes, the rich, uber rich, that's like the Bidens and the Pelosi's and stuff, and then poor people. No middle class. And they figure if everybody's poor other than the super rich elite, that will vote for them and they'll have power over us because you'll be dependent on the government for your EBT and your housing and all that.
That's what they want. So
that's why they're doing all this.
Happening is an illusion. It's temporary.
So all this inflation is by Biden's design to destroy the middle class and try to wipe it out. I mean, I think it's obvious. If he's trying to fix some of this stuff now for the election year, it shows that he can control and make things better. He's just chosen to make things worse to make us suffer. And he gave a speech in Valley Forge today, which on one of my YouTube live streams over the weekend, I might show some of that speech. It was really disgusting. Valley Forge, I don't think a lot – everybody knows except Nikki Haley, but everybody's heard of Valley Forge, but I don't think most people know too much about it other than that Washington was there with the Army and they had the cold winter and everything. It was in I think 1777 and 1778. I could be off by the year, and I'll get all these comments, but I think it was 77 and 78. The British had taken over Philadelphia, and they were camped in Valley.
That was the capital then, right? It was New York.
No, it was not the capital, but it was the government fled, so it was where everything had happened. Yes, it's where the Declaration of Independence was signed. So it was the effective capital, I guess you could say. But what was left of
we just had reps. We didn't have the president yet.
No, there's no. There's no president. But I guess you could call it the capital. But the British, it was where everything was based. So the British took over Philadelphia. Right. New York was the capital when Washington was president at first.
Right. Yeah, because I remember went to that church where his pew was.
But so they spent the winter there and they retrained and did all this stuff, and it's a very historic thing. And things were so bad for the soldiers at Valley Forge. I mean, they were eating, I'm not exaggerating, they were eating dirt and leaves. They had no food. And, the winters in Pennsylvania are god-awful. I mean, they're bad enough here in Florida. I can imagine what it was like. But anyway, Biden went to George Washington's headquarters and gave this speech. And I saw the speech today. He was so angry.
Yes.
When he was talking about Trump and MAGA voters.
He was really attacking us.
And, part of the anger of Biden, because of his cognitive decline, people that suffer from like Alzheimer's and other dementia-related issues have a hard time sounding with it. So what a lot of them do is if they're angry, they think they sound with it and alert. And you hear that a lot with Biden. But when he was talking about MAGA Republicans and Trump, he was foaming at the mouth.
What did he say?
Was just rage, just anger. And
well, because he's worried. He's running scared.
Well, yeah,
and it's another way to try to use fear to manipulate people, like scare them, like make us out to be the boogeyman.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
Part of that too.
And he was at the Washington headquarters and everything, and I'm not quite sure in his mind what he was saying by going to Valley Forge and George Washington's headquarters.
I don't think he knows
Does he
either.
think that he's like a George Washington type, leading America to freedom
yes,
from
I
something?
Yes, I think he does think that. Yep.
You know, I don't know what the significance in his mind was. He thinks he's a George Washington.
Yeah, I think he thought he was making some incredible speech.
You know, George Washington is the opposite of Biden. You know, George Washington,
yes.
He's known for a lot of things. But the two things that he did this twice, and up until that time, no one did it. When the British surrendered, okay, he still had the army. He could have made himself king of America, and he walked away he resigned as a general and went back to Mount Vernon. And no one had willingly given up something like that throughout all of history. No one had done that. Then, when he was president, you could be president forever back then. There was no two-term constitutional limits like we have now. We didn't have that until after President Roosevelt, the second FDR. When he set up a tradition that everyone went by except FDR, that 2 terms and that was it. But when he was finished with his second term, he could have been elected again and again. There was talk of making him president for life. And after his second term, he gave up the presidency, didn't run again, and went back home to Mount Vernon. No one in history before George Washington gave up power willingly like that. No one. Okay? And for Joe Biden, who's locking up political prisoners, who's arresting his political top opposition, who's beating him in all the polls, President Trump, and all these things, he is nothing like George Washington. But this is the thing, okay? With tyrants. What tyrants do, and not just American tyrants, what tyrants do, and like I said, this isn't just like American tyrants. This is, throughout the world. What tyrants do is they take the heroes, icons, legendary, respected, historical figures of a country, and they make them their own. Obama did this in his first term. When he was first elected, Obama in his first term in 2008 got that book about Lincoln, Team of Rival. I'm going to model myself after Lincoln, who was the first Republican president, of course. And now you have Biden taking the great General Washington and basically comparing himself to the great George Washington, which is very twisted stuff. But this is what propagandists do. This is what communists do. This is what Marxists do. This is what tyrants do. And Biden is doing it. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's so much more to talk about. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back right after this quick break.
Are you tired of that same old baby gear shopping experience? Toss that baby powder aside and get ready for a shopping adventure like no other at baybydropshop.myshopify.com. Picture this, a digital wonderland where strollers moonwalk, diapers do the cha-cha, and onesies breakdance. It's not just a store, it's a baby boogie revolution. Say goodbye to boring baby shopping and hello to baybydropshop.myshopify.com, where your baby swag level goes through the roof. The deals are hotter than the diaper blowout. From onesies that scream future genius to pacifiers with more bling than a celebrity baby shower, they've got it all. And guess what? Their prices are so good, even the storks are jealous. But wait, there's more. Spin the baby bottle of fortune and win fabulous discounts, or maybe even a dance-off with a diaper-wearing mascot. It's wild. It's wacky. It's baybydropshop.myshopify.com. What are you waiting for? Go right now to baybydropshop.myshopify.com MyShopify.com and join the party. Don't miss out on the chance to make your baby the talk of the playground. BebeDropShop.MyShopify.com. It's not just a shop, it's a funky fiesta for your little VIP. Very important Pampers. Disclaimer: no actual babies were forced to dance during the making of this broadcast. Diapers were harmed in the pursuit of hilarity. Bebe Drop Shop is not responsible for uncontrollable giggles and spontaneous dance outbreaks. Shop responsibly and keep the baby powder nearby. BebeDropShop.MyShopify.com. How would you like to turn your vacation into the journey of a lifetime? You can do just that with Morocco Travel Organizer, your gateway to the heart of Morocco. With Morocco Travel Organizer, you'll be immersed in a land of rich culture, history, and breathtaking landscapes. Morocco Travel Organizer understand your desire for an authentic Moroccan experience. That's why they craft each trip with a passion and love for their beautiful country, showcasing its charm and its diversity through unique, tailor-made adventures. From the breathtaking architecture of Casablanca to the dunes of the Sahara Desert, Morocco Travel Organizer takes care of everything for you. The booking, the accommodations, transportation, exclusive activities like hot air balloon rides, and restaurants with the best in Moroccan food. Each journey booked with Morocco Travel Organizer is as unique as you are. They customize the trip to your preferences, making sure that you have a truly personalized adventure. Connect with the heart and the soul of Morocco, its people, and its culture. Are you ready to discover your next great adventure? Visit MoroccoTravelOrganizer.com and let them make your visit to Morocco an unforgettable story of discovery and enchantment. MoroccoTravelOrganizer.com. Your next great adventure awaits. Are you living the life that you want to live? You've tried to make changes. You've just needed the right help and guide. And that's what you will find in the new book from author Katrina Dell, Unveiling the Journey to Inner Transformation, available on Amazon. Author Katrina Dell unravels the mysteries behind sustainable weight loss, mental clarity, and a revitalized spirit. Unveiling the Journey to Inner Transformation is a blueprint for a vibrant, fulfilling life. With this must-read and life-changing book, you'll discover the art of nourishing both your body and soul, unlocking your fullest potential. It's a path of self-discovery and resilience. This isn't just for a fitter physique, but for a fortified mind and revitalized spirit. With practical insights and scientific evidence, Unveiling the Journey to Inner Transformation will illuminate your path towards a healthier, more vibrant you. It will revitalize your relationship with food and guide you towards vitality and well-being. Find energy, clarity, and fulfillment. Order your copy of Unveiling the Journey to Inner Transformation from author Katrina Dell, available on Amazon. Your journey to a healthier, happier, and more inspired life begins now. Unveiling the Journey to Inner Transformation from author Katrina Dell on Amazon.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. So, Laura Loomer went to a Nikki Haley event in Iowa today. And when she arrived, the police removed her before Nikki Haley even got there, which means Nikki Haley and her people told them in advance to stop Laura Loomer. Let me play this exchange. This is Laura Loomer. This is today in Iowa. Nikki Haley's not there yet, but it's Laura Loomer talking with a police officer.
What's the problem that we're here for an event? Like, I'm just standing here.
I'm asking you to leave. Thank you.
Like, this is a presidential campaign event, right? Can you just explain to me, like, why you're asking me to leave? Why? Can you just explain to me, like, why you're asking me to leave?
Because they want you to leave.
Why?
It's private property, miss.
Right, but it's an event. I'm standing here. Like, what's the issue?
Can you please gather your things and leave, please?
I don't understand. Like, what's the issue if you work for Nikki's campaign?
They don't
Why?
want you.
Why? I'm standing here.
Oh, there's a staffer from Nikki Haley's campaign with a police officer.
Signed up for the event.
I told you. That's all I was advised. And now I'm asking you to move from the premises, please.
What's the point of having town halls if you're just going to kick people out? I mean, she wants to be the first female president, and she's kicking a woman out of her event for
I'm
what?
not here to answer questions. If you have any comments or concerns, you can contact them.
Well,
I'm here to do security, so please move.
You guys sent me an email. I got your text blast, and it said to sign up for the event. So what is the issue?
I'm asking you nicely.
Well, I think I'm asking pretty nicely as well.
And I don't have answers for you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just got advised that you must leave the premises, and that's why I'm here. So I apologize. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, and she left because they were going to arrest her if she didn't. So, and there's this cowardly staffer.
I'm surprised she didn't take it that far.
Well, there's this cowardly staffer next to the cop. He's so nervous. He's got his arms crossed. He's looking down at the floor. He's pacing back and forth like a lunatic. You know, Laura Loomer's very fast on her feet there. She said she was talking to the staffer, not so much the police officer. She said she wants to be the first woman president, but she's throwing out a female reporter from the event. You know, let me just say this about police officers, okay? In the conservative movement, we're so, back the blue. The police are always effing us over, right? You got these January 6th Capitol Police that lie under oath in front of Congress. You've got this. You've got during COVID, they were arresting people because they were trying to work. They remember the police that went into that house in New York because there were too many Jews inside, and they pulled people out. It looked like 1932, 33. The police are not our friend. The police. I'm not saying all police are bad, but police work is government work, and that attracts liberals. Liberal-minded people go into government work, okay?
Well, I don't know if it's political or so much as that they are trained to, do what they're told. They're like soldiers.
Like trained dogs.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that, but, and I'm sure most police officers are good and want to do the right thing. But there are some that like the power. And, if they're working an event like that and they're working security, they're being paid to be there. Cops make extra money working security at events like this, and they make good money. They make good money, like $80, $100 an hour. I mean, it's good money. They do it. And so if somebody is hiring them, it's like private security.
Yeah.
Even though they're in a cop uniform. So if they tell them you throw them out, they have to do it because the person paying them is telling them they have to do it. So don't blame the cop. Blame Nikki Haley.
No, it's both.
This came from her.
It's both. And it's both. And
she didn't want her in there because she knew Laura would make a scene and start saying something, and talking loud and calling her out on stuff.
What Nikki Haley did was stupid because what she's done is she's put a spotlight on this with Laura Loomer. She's made Laura Loomer bigger. She's made her more influential. And now what Loomer's going to do is start following her around and getting questions to her when she's walking from here and there. So
Nikki's had so many bad moments on TV in the last 2 weeks. She's terrified of another bad moment.
That's right. I mean?
She's terrified of another viral moment because she's been one disaster after another. It's like, it's just interesting because she was like on a momentum and then it's like you're on a winning streak.
Yeah, like DeSantis used to be.
And then all of a sudden, one thing happens, and it's like everything just goes to hell, and you just can't seem to get your head above water again. You know what I mean? It's just weird how that kind of happens.
What happens with people that are running for office, typically when they fall out like this, is they become an object of ridicule. I talk about this a lot, and you can go through all kinds of candidates. Once you become a joke, you're done. And Nikki Haley's a punchline now because of that Civil War thing. DeSantis with the heels. And, if Laura Loomer would have thrown a fit or disturbed the actual event, that would be different. This was like preemptive. It is very, very cowardly. Well, but I'm glad she did it because this is my frustration with Nikki Haley, okay? She's been getting a free ride in the press. And now that Laura Loomer is on her case, especially after this, Nikki Haley's done. Because Laura Loomer is going to follow her to New Hampshire. When I was done, she's going to follow her to South Carolina after New Hampshire. And she is going to get a moment with Nikki Haley, and it's going to go viral, and Nikki Haley is going to be exposed. I hope that there's so much to ask her about, but I hope that Loomer asks her about that affair she had having sex in her government office.
Nobody else is.
And that would be beautiful.
That would be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I really hope so. Now, this morning on my YouTube channel, I did a live stream where I showed Biden's speech, which was yesterday in Valley Forge. And you guys should go and watch that stream. It's a very good stream. and I took calls during it. And what the reason I did that this morning, I talked about this on the stream, is it was the unofficial official launch of Biden's campaign against Trump, because he was talking about
what
Trump.
What a way to start a campaign with such anger and focusing on Trump instead of focusing on the country and being positive and your vision, because he has no vision, okay? He has no vision. I mean, that's how he starts off his campaign, screaming and yelling and ranting like a lunatic about Trump. Whose idea was that? That was really stupid.
What he was doing, what they're trying to, I'm queuing up a soundbite here. What they're trying to do, and that's what this was about, was make a national holiday, January 6th, and they're trying to make January 6th the 9/11-like event.
It's today, right?
Today, but the speech January was yesterday. 6th, right. They want to have January 6th like with 9/11 and Pearl Harbor.
Never
and
happen.
When you watch that stream of mine, I have never seen a president of the United States so angry.
Yeah,
at
disturbing.
At minimum half of the country.
Right.
Whenever you hear Trump talk, he never talks about the voters.
No.
He talks about officials and things. He talks about people that attack him, but he never attacks the voters. And what Joe Biden did in that Valley Forge speech yesterday was declare half of the country domestic terrorists. Now, Mercedes Schlapp was on Newsmax, and she was talking about it, and it was pretty interesting. And I did not know this about Mercedes Schlapp, but you'll learn something here about her that I learned from this clip.
I am so offended by the speech because this president is calling my family, is calling me, is calling MAGA supporters enemy of America.
That's right.
I am the daughter of a Cuban political prisoner who fought for freedom, who fought against authoritarian and dictators. He sounds just like Fidel Castro did. Fidel Castro would target the enemies of his government and try to take them down. This is exactly what we're seeing with Joe Biden. He should be ashamed of himself. No American should be called a Nazi or be called an enemy of the state. Yeah. Those of us who love this country, and I have spent my whole life defending freedom in America.
Yeah.
It was a really bad move.
What Biden called, it wasn't, he was talking about Trump, but he was also talking about those who support Trump.
Right.
He was calling us Nazis.
Yeah.
Nazis and domestic terrorists.
Well, plus Trump's support has gone up. So it's even more than half the country now. Now he's insulting like 65% of the country.
So,
it was a stupid tactic.
This is the thing. If you go around thinking half of the American people are Nazis and terrorists,
more than half.
I mean, maybe the problem's with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, how is that possible? And he's gotten this. They're trying to get this narrative going, Biden and the Democrats, that for Trump to be reelected means there's no democracy in this country. Democracy. If the majority of the voters elect him, that is democracy.
Exactly.
And he gave this speech. Go and watch my live stream on YouTube when I go through this speech and I break it down as I go through it. You have never seen an American president have this much rage at the American people.
Shocking.
It's one thing if it was George W. Bush talking about Al-Qaeda on September 12th or even the first anniversary of 9/11 or something. This wasn't that. He was talking about Americans.
Yeah.
And he wasn't talking about just those who went inside the Capitol on January 6th. He was talking about everyone in the United States who supports Trump, no matter where you are, okay? So, today, this is all over social media. The Justice Department is going to start prosecuting people that did not go into the Capitol but were nearby outside the Capitol now.
Like what's the perimeter they're giving it?
I don't know. They didn't give the footage.
So people that were just even in Washington?
Well, they have to be within a certain distance of the Capitol, but people that were outside the Capitol,
that's crazy.
They're saying, well, they were in a secure zone, which is nonsense. But they're going to start arresting and prosecuting people that did not even go in the building that were outside the Capitol.
How are they going to determine who that?
They know who they are because they've got facial recognition. There's video everywhere. Mike Johnson.
People posted on social media, I guess.
Mike Johnson said when the reason it took him so long to do that big release of the videos is they wanted to block out people's faces. And because Mike Johnson said if we don't, the Justice Department might arrest some of those people. I was like, wow, I was surprised to hear the Speaker of the House say that. So we have the deep state, we have the president of the United States and the Democrats who have declared half of the American people terrorists, Nazis and terrorists. We have Nikki Haley.
Basically, anybody who doesn't agree with their ideology is an enemy of the country.
Enemy of the state. Well,
but Trump's the dictator.
But see,
that's
Kathy,
what dictators do.
That's exactly right. So they're saying that if you are not supporting Joe Biden and the Democrats, you're an enemy of the country.
Right.
And Mercedes Schlapp, what she said is right on the money. That's Castro. If you don't support the communist,
that's right.
You're against the country. You're either with us or against us, right?
But they don't see it because they feel it's totally justified. Like Joy Behar, they think we're stupid, dumb, white trash hicks. Don't know any better. We're all none of us have graduated high school, according to them.
Yeah,
we don't know any better, and they need to. This is how Democrats are. They treated the slaves the same way.
Yeah,
the slaves were dumb. They needed to be guided. They needed their direction. They still treat black people that way. That's how they treat people. They're elitists. They think they're better than everybody.
Yeah.
They think they're better than blacks, than Hispanic. They think they're better than all of us.
They do.
They're the white liberal elites.
They do.
They think they're better than all of us and that they know better. And they have always been this way. From the beginning of the party, they've always been this way.
Exactly. No, and I'll tell you, it's going to get worse because Biden this is going to be the theme of the whole campaign, right? He's even got a TV commercial out where he talks about this stuff. So we've got 10 months or so that half the country are going to be deemed domestic terrorists and Nazis. And I'll tell you, I'm glad.
Do you think they're going to stick with that, or do you think they're going to switch gears?
No, they got nothing else. It's been 3 years. They're still sticking with it. Why would they all of a sudden change? It's been 3 years.
It's not a good strategy.
No, it's a good strategy for us because what they're going to do is they're going to start scaring people and turning even more people off. Because if you're not with them, you're an enemy of the state. Well, and that's not America.
That's running a very negative campaign.
Oh.
And it's okay to go after your opponents. I mean, Trump does that too, but like you said, he doesn't go after the voters.
Yeah.
He just goes after the politicians, which is very smart. You never hear Trump attack ever. I never hear him talk about the voters. Once in a while he'll say, "Oh, go back to mommy." But that's like somebody who's at his rally, like a protester. But he doesn't attack the Americans. And you're right. I mean, I would venture to guess it's more than half the country now.
Yeah. Well, listen, everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Make sure you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to on. We will